That's exciting. That's exciting.
That is amazing.
I think we might have cracked it.
I'm ready for a good time.
We've got it.
Look, more on that later. We may have just got there in terms of our walk-on song.
So excited about that.
Yeah.
So excited.
Hello and welcome to the Carsguide podcast, where we tear down, pressure test and rebuild the issues of the automotive week. I'm James, and with me are Richard.
Hello.
And Matt.
G'day.
This week, among other things, we'll look at shiny metal on display in China, a ute extravaganza, and kids giving a crash course in driver distraction. So stay with us. But first, must watch. Okay, so they're still working 24/7
Round the
at
clock.
the Fremont Tesla plant, making Model 3s as fast as they can.
Yep.
They've kicked a few robots out. Now somebody has broken a jaw. Someone's broken their jaw on the production line. So officially, machinery's to blame. It's some kind of OH&S slip-up. Or, Richard, you're theorising it could be something more.
It might be a certain Elon Musk.
I
I reckon maybe a haymaker.
punching on. Punching on with the employees.
He's under a lot of pressure, and if people aren't pulling their weight, they're going to meet the fist.
He's picked up a crowbar.
He's
and
picked
just
up a crowbar.
Get the hell on with it.
He's picked up another worker.
Yeah.
And then slapped him across the face with him.
The mind boggles because he's probably getting, he's pent up in there. He's getting stir crazy. He's been in the factory 24/7 for weeks.
He's building cars himself.
Well,
He's building cars himself.
He just wants to get to Mars.
Exactly. And this is all a delay
Yes.
for the trip to Mars. So he's been working around the clock, and that's how accidents happen.
That's how the jaw broke.
Bloomberg has got the Model 3 production tracker that we've been watching. It's trending towards 3,000 units a week for the Model 3 within the next month or so, which you think that's amazing. That's as high as it's ever been. Obviously, Elon's factory violence is working. They're actually getting some cars. The sausage machine is putting some output through the door. But don't forget, the target is 6,000 cars a week by June. And as of Monday, that's a month away.
Yeah.
So I would argue that Tesla has once again taken square aim at its foot and pulled the trigger.
So they reset that target again quite recently.
Yeah.
It was 3,000 and they were falling behind.
It
and now
was
they've made
it was 5,000.
5,000.
And they just went bullish.
Let's make it 6.
We're onto it. Let's make it 6.
Yeah, right.
So that's not going to happen. And look, Keith Crane, who's the much admired editor-in-chief of Automotive News, which is a very well-respected, industry-focused trade newspaper / magazine, has written an opinion piece saying Tesla's days are numbered. Ooh. And look, the main point is that he believes the company failed to grasp that moment in time when you're the leader. You have no competition. You've really created a new market. He says they haven't taken advantage of that, or they haven't been able to, and also genuine consumer demand for battery electric vehicles is yet to really be tested. And he's talking about Tesla in the past tense. He says Tesla gave it a good run. So as far as he's concerned, it's already happened.
Well, past tense. Like you said, you've had your go. You've had your go. You did what you did, but
but it didn't work out.
It didn't work.
Wow, it's so telling.
Yeah,
so basically he's saying that, look, they had a really good opportunity here. They didn't have any other competitors.
Yep.
They really could have. It was theirs to lose. And he's saying they lost it.
They lost it. And really, there are a lot of incentives in various markets around the world where governments, quite rightly, are trying to reduce emissions, tailpipe emissions from cars. But what Keith Crane's saying is that real consumer demand hasn't been tested. And a lot of these incentives are actually coming off now.
Yeah.
So will people buy them? Remains the question.
You've said it before, James, in the office here, is that it doesn't matter if you can build as many as you want. If no one buys them, there's no point building them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
If there are, if these incentives are falling away, how much future is there? I mean, of course there's a future for the electric car, but is it as big
as grandiose?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, we'll look back at this as a sort of a Vegemite jar lid situation where, without Tesla having loosened it a bit, the rest of them wouldn't be able to open it. I think Tesla have gone a long way to actually change it.
What the hell are you talking about?
I think
why is there a Vegemite jar?
It's a metaphor, James. It's a metaphor. There's no Vegemite jar.
Are we just talking about a jar?
No.
Or is there some particular reason we're talking about Vegemite?
What I mean is that Tesla came along and they basically opened the way for the rest of them to come in, while the rest of them couldn't break through.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening here.
We'll check in again with Crazy Elon next week. But speaking of high smog environments that possibly could benefit from some zero tailpipe emissions, Beijing, China. This week sees the Beijing Motor Show opening its doors and lots of shiny metal on display. In fact, some very shiny metal and some very luxurious cars, one of which is at this stage, it's a concept, but it's a Maybach SUV from Mercedes-Benz, from Mercedes-Maybach, based on the GLS, and it is an unbelievably premium kind of a car, but it makes sense. Mercedes-Maybach is going into this market. Rolls-Royce is about to unveil the Cullinan. Bentley's had the Bentayga for a while. Aston's going to have its DBX, which we believe Richard is going to have a name starting with a V, but that hasn't been launched yet. Something like that.
Bit of a frog in my voice.
But when you think, according to the Harun Global Rich List for 2018, China added 4 billionaires each week last year and led the world with a total of 819 billionaires, whose combined net worth amounted to $2.5 trillion, or 3.2% of global GDP.
That's just 800 people.
819 people represent 3.2% of global GDP.
Wow.
And they're all in China.
So more than lots of small nations in Africa.
Yeah.
You betcha.
That's obscene.
So
crazy.
these very premium brands are getting in there. We've got some lovely cars for you. You may be interested in several of them.
Yeah, let's make one for you now.
Yes. What would you like?
Just how deep are your pockets?
Yeah, and on the basis of that, extremely deep.
But if that Maybach thing is what the images that we've seen around the internet represent, a high SUV style sedan, I think it is.
Yeah,
it's like the 3-box design.
It's a little bit blurring the lines, isn't it?
But this makes perfect sense for the Chinese market, because while SUVs are getting more popular there, they still love a sedan. They still love the prestige that comes with the 3-box design, and something that's high riding, that has presence, but also sticks with what they know, could be very, very appealing.
Too true. I mean, there's the Volvo, which was the Volvo S80, S90? S90,
yep.
Which is effectively a 3-seat car, meaning the front passenger seat's removed. And you can luxuriate in the back there. Sedans, you're right, Matt, they do have a lot of prestige. Yes, it's a fairly awkward-looking vehicle. But speaking of awkward-looking vehicles, there's another one there, this time from a Chinese manufacturer. It's Haval, which sits under the umbrella of Great Wall. And through that organisation's premium brand, which is called Way, they've released a car called the X Concept. And it looks a lot like the Citroën Cactus. It has a similar kind of form. It is an SUV. But they're jumping straight into the level 5 autonomy thing. That is, no steering wheel, no pedals, no driver, just occupants inside this car, which navigates its way via smart technology, speaking with other vehicles, whatever. To me, it just seems like the biggest stretch imaginable. These people are saying they're going to have level 5 autonomy in the near future, and it's just rubbish.
It is rubbish, because when you've got established brands like Mercedes-Benz and BMW, not saying Haval's not established, it's very big in China, but in terms of this type of technology, Benz and BMW are leading the world, and so is Volvo. When the people who run these companies are coming out and saying level 5 is a long way off.
As in a long way longer than we thought it was going to be.
But also those players are in established marketplaces where the cities have been there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, a lot of them.
Millions even.
In China, there's a lot of new cities. So there's more possibility for the infrastructure to be built into the cities as they're being built. And even Beijing itself is a pretty high-tech city. So I would imagine that they'd be able to implement that sort of infrastructure, Car2X, all that sort of stuff.
I take your point. But the Way X is saying they will have a small holographic person, like an automotive Siri, floating next to you in the car to take your instructions. That is La La Land. So to be presenting this as, this is something that's just around the corner, I think is, they're pushing. It's not quite truthful.
It's fanciful. It's fanciful.
It is.
Maybe it's not. Maybe we just don't know. Maybe the other manufacturers are holding back, and these guys are going, you know what? We're just gonna put it out there. You're gonna have a holographic lady in your car.
Ooh, I wouldn't mind that.
Okay. Look, moving on. At that point, time to move on. So we have pictures of the Way X on our site. Take a look, and the small series style holographic person, but we're staring down the barrel of a sports ute extravaganza. Matt, you've been driving new Toyota Hilux models, 3 of them,
Yep.
As well as the HSV Sports Cat that we've spoken about before, and a Tickford modified Ford Ranger, and we've got a big test coming up.
Yep.
So tell us first of all about the Hiluxes.
Okay, so Hiluxes, it was an interesting test. They took us out to Wilpena Pound in South Australia in the middle of the outback, so lots of nothing to see, which was really lovely. And we tested them off-road, tested them on-road. There's 3 different models, as I think we've mentioned before. There's the Rugged, which is the more affordable version. There's the Rugged X, which is a more hardcore, sort of off-road focused SR5 model. And then there's the Rogue, which is more of a city-focused model. And they've each got unique selling points. They've all got a reason for being, which is really important. If you're looking in the Hilux range, up until this point, you haven't had that much choice in terms of going a little bit further.
So these are additional. They're not replacing anything.
Exactly.
They're supplementary.
Exactly.
Right.
So where you've had Ford come in with the Wild Track, the Wild Track's been its halo car for a long time, but it's one vehicle for a bunch of different buyers.
Okay.
Where Toyota's taken a very different tact with this.
Yep.
It's got 3 different vehicles for 3 different buyers. And I think that's incredibly smart. Of course, Toyota would do it the smart way.
Yep.
The biggest issue with it is, apart from adding some bits and pieces around the vehicle, no mechanical changes at all.
All right, that you think the prospective customers would probably want.
Well, I honestly reckon if they put a different engine in it or a more powerful tune of that engine or whatever, it would have a different level of appeal to a different buyer again.
Oh, I see.
So, I mean, you buy a Toyota because you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want to not know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But this is classic Toyota, isn't it? They'll make all the enhancements in the world, but they'll leave the engine alone. Look at the Toyota 86.
Yeah.
We're still running a 147 kilowatt, engine since 2012.
Yeah, but it also makes a lot of business sense to keep things as they are, because then you have less complexity in your model range. You've got less parts complexity. You've got less service complexity. They don't have to retrain anyone on how to service this engine, that sort of thing. So,
I mean, time will tell, won't it? I mean, the market will always speak.
And there's no way that the Hilux won't sell 50,000 vehicles this year and, again, be the top-selling vehicle in Australia. That's just going to happen. I'd put my house on it today. So that's just how it's going to be.
How many bedrooms is your house actually got?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
3, okay. That's fine. Is there a garage?
No garage, but it's got double parking spots. So anyway.
You can keep it.
Now, let's talk about HSV Sports Cat.
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 different tunes of Sports Cat. So this is the same sort of approach. They've gone, well, we'll offer one that sort of looks sporty and has a bit of extra stuff going on inside. And then we'll offer one that's got, you can have more stuff. So it's got like special shocks and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And it's a little bit more expensive, obviously. And it's got better brakes. The vehicle that we've had, the Sports Cat, the regular one, doesn't have the AP racing brakes that you get in the Sports Cat Plus,
which is a racing brakes.
Yeah. You would have thought there's one thing that most utes suck at, and that's braking.
Okay.
And but you're going to say just ride and
just
comfort,
being good.
Really. Yeah. Just being.
No. So
yeah.
But braking is a real concern for most utes, and the Sports Cat really should have got the brake upgrade, because the braking feel is probably the biggest thing that lets that vehicle down. Apart from the fact it's like the Hilux, it's got, but the big thing is it's wearing a HSV badge, and nothing's changed under the bonnet.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of badges, the other one is Tickford. Now, Tickford is no longer the factory endorsed subsidiary style modifier that it once was. It's very much an aftermarket, as I understand it, in Australia, and they've done a version of the Ranger.
Exactly, yes, with a power bump.
Power bump.
Yeah, so they've chipped and tuned, and it's got quite a bit more actually. It's got, instead of 470 newton meters, it's 564 newton meters.
Wow, okay, that's pretty good.
Powers up by about 20% as well. So
Yep.
it's a big, sizable jump, but offset by all the extra stuff that they add to these vehicles, like big, fat 20-inch heavy wheels and big
see.
guards and
So
bars and
weight or just complexity?
just weight.
Yeah.
Like they add a lot of weight to these vehicles in order to, but it's not intentional. It's just the fact of trying to make a ute look more muscular is that you add more weight to it.
But that kind of power up was sort of what people might have expected for the Ranger Raptor, yeah?
Yep.
And they haven't got it so far.
No. Yeah. So, well, as we know, the Ranger Raptor will have a downsized engine compared to the regular Ranger.
Yes.
But twin turbocharged and with a better gearbox. So it'll make better use of its power.
Yeah.
It's got more torque than the 3.2, which is good. But this thing, you know, I looked at it and went, wow, that looks tough. It looks so good. You drive it, you go, oh, God, I don't know.
Really?
It's okay. It's probably not as good as a standard Ranger XLT to drive and to live with, for example, because it's got a lift kit and it's got big wheels and that sort of stuff. For me, I would just get the engine tune because it's factory backed. So
Yeah, right.
it doesn't impact your Ford warranty and,
Okay.
it's backed by Tickford as well. So you sort of think to yourself, you know, it might be worth spending the money, but then you look inside and you've got these, you know, leather seats that have got little bits of padding and it looks nicer, there's no doubt about it. But I personally, put it this way, the vehicle that we had before on road costs, if you bought a brand new XLT, drove it to Tickford, they fitted all the stuff, 80 grand.
$80,000. Yeah, right.
80 grand.
80,000.
Well, speaking of vehicles with presence, stance, and performance, now some magical words from a magical Aussie icon.
Australian performance drivers love their cars, and the performance car they love the most is the one that's done it all. From the Mount Panorama Winners Circle to your driveway, all roads lead to Winton. The 2018 Winton Turbo now features an even more potent version of the powerhouse Redback 2-stroke V9 Turbo, backed up by the latest generation version of our patented Torque Tumbler transmission technology. Once you eye it and try it, we guarantee you'll buy it. Australia's Winton Turbo. Inspiration is standard.
Torque Tumbler transmission available at extra cost. Wheels and tyres sold separately. Batteries not included. Consult your Winton dealer for final pricing. Winton. Just saying the word makes you feel good.
Makes me feel warm.
Yeah.
Bit wet.
What?
Not sure why I said that, but yeah. I
Fine.
did.
Look, Frosty Chops is a great friend of the show. He's now head of corporate and government affairs at the Winton Motor Company. He actually formed Frosty and the Snowmen, one of Australia's biggest bands of the 1960s. And that song at the head of the show, I'm Double Parked by the Curbside of Your Heart, topped the Aussie charts for 3 months straight in 1968.
Wow.
3 months.
Now,
From February right through to 3 months after that. Yeah.
It was. I don't know whether they were consecutive months or not.
how old is Frosty then? If he was in a hit band in the 60s, the guy looks like he's in his early 40s at oldest.
He's about at least 70, I reckon.
There's a portrait in his attic that's aging while he's just operating out in the real world. He's the Dorian Gray of the Australian motor industry. But the band was just starting to crack it in the US. I mean, he was telling us, Richard, it's supporting the likes of the Tailpipe Trio and the Shutter Boys and the Swizzle Sticks, some of the big names.
Massive.
But, you know, with a 7-piece outfit, you're always going to have personality clashes in the touring pressure cooker. And it all came crashing down. Rumour has it Yoko Ono was involved. Before she met John Lennon, there was Frosty. So
before Lennon.
Yeah, wow. And all the members of the band met at Winton Motor Company. A lot of them were on the production line. Others were in the office, like Chesney Vale. He's the guy on keyboard.
Oh, I thought you meant
and cowbell,
and also on the machinery.
He was actually on the bumper bar stops.
His job was to get the stops in,
pressing those out for quite a few years. Barnaby Gapstead, his lead guitar. You had Howell and Graham Swanpool, the flamboyant front man of the band.
Was it Warren Bay? What was he? He was...
Well, Frosty was on drums.
Frosty was... Of course he was.
You had Greta Yundall on harp and guitar and flute
Yeah.
and all the wind instruments.
She was great.
You had Warren Bain, the rhythm guitar,
That's
and
right.
of course
That's
Dookie College.
Dookie
College is on bass.
Dookie College.
Dookie College.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Richard, you've got the lowdown here.
So-
Frosty's been talking to you about the music that we used as our walk-on song.
I always feel weird talking to Frosty because it feels when you meet they say you shouldn't meet your heroes, and I get all tongue-tied when I talk to him. Anyway, Frosty found out that we were desperately trying to find a theme song. Anyway, he didn't even tell any of us this, but he took it upon himself to reform the band, re-record that track, and then give it to us.
Fantastic.
So he's given us
Great.
our theme song, and I think it's perfect for us. I think
Great.
it's absolutely
All
perfect.
right, it's super exciting news. Wow, we've got
I'm
Frosty and the Snowman as our walk-on song. Great. Okay, now, we've published a story that says driving with your child, now that's one, but I presume there's a multiplier effect here, is 12 times more dangerous than talking on your mobile phone while you're driving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a parent of a few rugrats, I can tell you that I go along with that 100%. I think they can be so massively distracting.
Yep.
Is it like 12, 24? Is it
Oh,
48?
it's probably
add them
exponential.
all together.
So
each
by
one's
the
12 times.
Yeah, by the time you got it, it's 100 times more distracting than speaking on the phone. As in, you can't concentrate on anything.
Yeah, well, is it 12 to the power of 2?
Yeah,
So 144 times more likely.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Because at
Yeah.
least a phone is predictable and
Yeah.
switch offable.
Yeah.
Whereas a
Yes.
child will not listen to reason.
They will not
If
shut
a
up.
little kid is determined to scream and kick up a fuss, there's very little that's going to stop it.
And also,
There's-
you can ignore your
Yeah.
phone if you need to.
Absolutely, you can. There is
Or-
all kinds of ways around it.
Or if you're one of those people who does play with their phone, you can pay attention to your phone when
know,
you need to.
My
But-
solution is involving the child and a phone. I just hand the phone over
To
with
the child.
bloody ABC Kids on it and go there, just
Great.
watch a Peppa Pig.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Richard, you just made the gesture of reaching around to the seat behind.
Yep.
And that's the temptation as a
Yes.
parent when you're behind the wheel
Yep.
to either look at what's going on, try and fix whatever the trauma is, and it's just as distracting. In fact, it's 12 times more distracting than speaking on a mobile.
While stopped though, James, I'll and the car's in park. I'll hand over the phone.
So I would like to know if they've ever done any sort of study on those cars that have those pop-down backseat mirrors, so you can see what's happening in the back seat. If that's going to be less distracting for drivers, then maybe they should consider making that a standard fit thing for family cars.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
I think I've driven with people in the back and like put that little mirror down and gone, I can talk to them like that.
But at the same time, it's not that.
But they
it's
weren't
the fact
2-year-olds.
that they will not stop screaming.
I think it's
and
more
it doesn't
like
matter if you can see them or not. They are just going for it. And
It's more like a cone of silence petition.
Yeah.
Where you just hit the button
a
and
big
that
glass
that
thing
acrylic
comes
thing
up.
just comes
Yeah.
straight
Yeah.
down.
Chauffeur time.
Yeah. It's quiet time in the front of the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, read all about it. It's on our site. I think it's an interesting point that, they're lovely. Kids, terrific. Who doesn't love them? Except when they're distracting you in the car. It can be highly dangerous. Now, another distraction has been Porsche. In its adult playground, they are like kids with toys, and this toy is the 911 GT3 RS. Complete in toxic shock green. That's the colour I've made up for it, but it has the Visark package on it, which means full-on aero and all kinds of other bits and pieces. And it's gone sub 7 minutes on the Nürburgring. So, question is, do we really care? That's awesome or yawnsome? They've gone 6:56.40. It's the third fastest production car ever around there. 24 seconds faster than the GT3 911 managed in May last year. And it's nudging up against its GT2 RS sibling. Porsche's going fast around the Nürburgring. Is it for kids to get all excited about and have posters up on their wall? Or is it for the very, very few people in the entire globe to boast about? What's it all about? Richard, what do you make of it?
I used to be one of those kids that used to get so excited about the record being broken again and again and again. You had car after car after car. You had production cars. You had just race track-focused cars. Nissan GTR came along and blew everybody away, and then it was outdone by somebody else. And then you had Renault Megane RSs. And now I don't know whether I've just grown up or I've just grown bored.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. it does seem a little bit remote. Those we've had the discussion before. For me, it's the Fiesta ST factor. Any car that's got more acceleration and more performance than a Fiesta ST is wasted in the real world. That's a philosophy you could probably live by. So all of these shenanigans around the Nürburgring seem quite distant in a way.
I think for the vast majority of people, the Nürburgring is just this place you can't associate with.
Sure.
But if it was, it clocked a 2-minute 11 around Bathurst, then maybe you might be able to get your head around it a little bit easier. But this is a long and complex track, and it's known for being a destroyer of egos and cars. And sure, it's great to see cars going faster and faster around it, but to what end?
I suppose the only thing is, it's more relatable because of console video games. A lot of people have lapped the Nürburgring in their lounge room. So they kind of understand the nature of the place, whereas in times past it was just something off in a forest in Germany. So there's that.
Maybe we should do something more local, like maybe 657 around the Nasho. Now I'd be more impressed by that. What about Nürburgring stickers on cars that you see?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like the ones that those guys did. What's that show? That internet show with those two guys, Moogs and what's his name? They did the Nasho stickers.
Yeah.
So I'm not for Nürburgring, but all for Nasho.
Yeah.
Well, look, let's keep it moving. For performance in the real world, Peugeot, of course, has the 208 GTI. But Richard, you got onto a story that our very own Andrew Chesterton followed up. The 3-door version is not long for this world.
No. So if you are thinking of getting a 3-door 208 GTI, this is probably going to be your last chance ever.
So you're speaking to all 2 or 3 people in Australia.
So there, Peter and Philippe out there, if you guys still want
keep it in the garage.
No, look, information has just come to hand. What I say in the last week or so that Peugeot are going to be canning the 3-door 208 GTI, and it's significant because the 205 GTI is a classic hot hatch. It go back in time to when Golf GTI and was ruling the B roads of the UK and Europe. Its arch nemesis out there was the 205 GTI. They've always been 3 doors. Now it's going to go to a 5-door. It's going to be a bigger car built on a different platform. So this could be the last time to get one.
Okay. So if you've got one, keep it. Wrap it up. Actually, vacuum wrap it. Cryogenically seal it.
It's little enough.
And if you're in the market to buy one second hand, there are some really solid deals on affordable.
That's good to know.
Say $11,500 for one with less than 50,000 Ks
on the Carsguide website.
Well, that's good. Now, look, we will pause for a word from our youthful colleagues at Oversteer.
What happens when you put 3 hooligans together in one room? You get a podcast full of hectic banter.
Hummer is for any rugged man. This manly scent possesses a blend.
That rules me right out. Jeez.
Stupid stories.
It's a cruise ship with all the inside scooped out, water fills it up, and then you put a pirate ship in the middle. It's nothing more gangster than a ship in a ship.
You're an idiot.
And some discussion about cars.
So we've got the K cars as well. What do you guys think? There's this new Honda Sports concept there.
I think it looks so cool. It does look a bit funky, mate.
The Oversteer podcast on the Carsguide website, iTunes, and where all good podcasts are sold.
Right, we're pushing on. Not a hell of a lot of time left. We'll leave those young, so-and-sos behind. Just to update everyone, last week we talked about the perilous state that GM Korea found itself in. Well, the news is that business has managed to sidestep bankruptcy via an 11th hour kind of cost-cutting deal with unions. That output had fallen from about 1 million cars for GM Korea as recently as 3 years ago to about half that last year. And that's because, GM stopped selling Chevrolet cars in Europe a couple of years ago. They're going to exit India and South African markets with the Chevrolet product. So GM's going to invest a lot now. They said they would if they could strike a deal with the Korean Development Bank and the government. So what that means is that Holden is still able to source product out of those factories. So it's kind of significant for us locally. We'll see where that goes in terms of new product development as well.
But if you look at that a different way, South Africa, right-hand drive. India, right-hand drive.
Point.
Australia,
great point.
Right-hand drive.
Very good point.
I would say we're going to be saying, we said it last week, we're going to be saying goodbye to Chevy source products and probably the Holden brand in Australia
yeah.
within the next couple of years.
You heard it here first.
It even raises the possibility how long for right-hand drive, because there's a train of thought, or there's a theory going around that eventually the world will just have to move to left-hand drive altogether, and it won't be so much of a change.
I don't think it'll be that. I think that when cars don't have steering wheels, it'll be middle-hand drive.
Middle drive.
And there won't be a distinction.
Yeah.
It'll just be all built in the same format.
Yeah.
And
a steering wheel which can be anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe you could drive from the back.
Yeah.
What decade was it? It was Sweden went from right to left-hand drive overnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not right to left-hand drive, but different side of the road.
Yep.
So it was, okay, everybody, midnight tonight.
Yeah.
You go on the other side of the road, and we're going to be in step with the rest of Europe.
12,000 people
I imagine
died overnight.
chaos must have just ensued, but they kind of ripped the Band-Aid off and did it.
Yeah.
And
That's the Swedish, though, aren't they?
It happened in one of the Pacific Island nations in about 5 years ago. So,
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's still happening.
It does seem
People are coming
like
to their
madness.
senses.
It feels like madness. You know, the majority of the motoring world is
left
driving on the other side of the road relative to Australia.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Do you know what? Blame the Romans. We drive on this side of the road because
they're your neighbours. They're a couple of doors up, aren't they?
Peter and Janine
Roman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Blame them. No, look it up. History books.
Okay, fine. Now, just quickly, we'll do a very rapid whip round on what's been in our garage this week. Matt, you've obviously been driving all these utes, but is there anything else that you've been steering?
Not at all.
Not at all? It's Ute City.
It's been ute for me. I've been most of my time's been spent in the HSV Sports Cat. Took it off-road yesterday.
Yeah.
Was mostly impressed with its ability off-road, not so impressed with its ride comfort off-road. And generally, it's not a bad thing.
Cool.
I wouldn't spend $65,000 on one, but I can say that a lot about lots of utes in the segment. So,
Richard?
I've been in a Kia Sorento S Plus. Look, I've just jumped out of an i30, which is its sibling in a lot of ways. The i30 is leagues ahead, but there is a new generation Sorento just around the corner. My advice, and this is just between you and me, dear listeners, maybe wait for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've been driving an Audi RS6, which absolutely fails the Fiesta ST test in that it's, I don't know,
And
it's a lazy $250,000.
The Avant
It's
as well, the wagon.
411 kilowatts. It's supercar fast in a wagon body. It sounds like thunder rolling down the road. And this one's a resting shade of yellow.
Very yellow, I was going to say.
It's my favourite, my dream, my want car.
And I got to say,
I love it. Yes. Which is, as opposed to what you said, what about the RS5
last week lost its character, doesn't feel the same sort of car. The RS6 has always been, I'm a muscle man, look how muscly I am.
great.
What about the car?
Yeah.
Yes, and you're not looking at Matt now. He's doing a special ripping double biceps pose. Those guns.
Huge.
With that, we've reached the finish line. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
And thanks to our producer, Barbara. As always, sliding the sliders like a pro. They say two wrongs don't make a right. Take his parents, for example. And thank you for listening. Please let us know what you think of the program. Search for Carsguide on Facebook and Instagram and use the hashtag CGPodcast or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. Please rate and review us on iTunes. Yes, you. Please take a minute. Do it. Right after this.
You there.
Help let others know about the podcast. Thank you. I hope you can join us next week. Until then, what did Batman say to Robin before they got into the Batmobile? Robin, get in the Batmobile.